Are you experiencing great suffering, or have you been suffering a lot more than you used to, maybe for no reason, during your awakening process? Thanks everyone. Welcome into another video. I'm Jaynes, and I help people navigate their midlife awakening and live better lives every day, which I'm trying to do myself. But I want to talk about this one today, and it's a big one. Suffering. Suffering is something that we all resist. It's something that us as human beings, like, we try to maximize our highs and minimize our lows. You know, the only problem we have in life is that we feel like we shouldn't have any problems. But one thing I want to talk about today that I've learned through suffering, and it's part of the path. It's part of the path. And I want to read a quote to start out with. And a lot of us will ask, like, why me? Like, why is this happening to me? When will this ever be over? But I'm going to read a quote from Carl Jung. There's no coming into consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Ooh, isn't that powerful? And that's what this is about. You know, like, none of us want to suffer. I've been through years of suffering, on and off. I've had some great moments mixed in, but I've had a lot of lack, and I've had a lot of suffering. A lot of that has been created by my own thinking. But I'll get into that too. But, like, you just get to that place. It's like, why is this happening to me? And there's a thing that by the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths. And I want to kind of like base the video on that. Like, it's helped me understand this path more. And the Four Noble Truths of the Buddha, the first is life has inevitable suffering. And the actual name for it, I think maybe Sanskrit or something, is dukkha. D-U-K-K-H-A. And it really means the unsatisfactory nature of things. And I want to share a story. Like, this is probably... It's tough to like really think back, but I think I know exactly where my spiritual awakening began. It was 2011, January 2011, and I had been in medical device sales with the company for 7-something years. I'd done very well. I was always one of the top 20% or so. I'd have a better year here and there, but boy, 2010, I killed it. I absolutely slayed it, and it was one of those nights. And, like at the awards dinner, and I was up on stage like 4 or 5 times. Had so many crystal trophies that I dropped one and broke it and had to have it repaired and sent to me. Won a Rolex, won a trip to Grand Cayman. It was just, I had reached that epiphany. And what the first noble truth is dukkha, or suffering. And what it really gets into is the unsatisfactory nature of things. I remember being on that stage after multiple times. And while it was exciting and good recognition, part of me was like, holy shit, this is what you dreamed of. This is it. This is not fulfilling. Something changed in my heart at that moment. Something changed in my heart. And the things that used to motivate me no longer did. I've been searching and searching for more. I've also been searching externally. I've also tried to keep fitting that square peg in the round hole, and that doesn't work either. But that was part of my suffering. We have to go through suffering. Suffering becomes functional for our awakening. Suffering does become grace. But that's the first noble truth, is dukkha. And you get to that state. And I think that's why so many people, that's why I'm helping people through midlife awakening, because I think a lot, everybody talks about a midlife crisis. I don't think it's midlife. And midlife can start in your mid-30s. That's kind of where it kicked off for me. But you get to that place, it's like, something's missing and I don't know what. And like the midlife crisis, the ideal thing is somebody goes and buys a sports car or an extra house. But that's what we do. We seek externally something to fill that void, and it's not outside of us. We have to go through that suffering. The second is there is a cause for our suffering. Like, everything truly does happen for a reason. And when your suffering begins, you can get so lost in it, you can't even think about that. That's the second of the noble truth, is to find the cause. There's something behind it. And you know what that entails? Like Carl Jung said, making the darkness light. Nobody can do that for you. You gotta go in here. You got to look at yourself in the eye. You got to look in the mirror. You got to be raw. You have to be honest with yourself first, and then with others. There's no way around that. The third noble truth is there's an end. And we're here taking a curriculum. There is an end to suffering. That's one thing that once I kind of realized, maybe 2012, 2013, I'm like, oh, I've been in the dark night of the soul. Like, okay, cool, I've been through my suffering. No, it's not that way. The best way I can describe it is like, there's going to be waves. And we're going to keep getting the lessons until we learn them. We're here to take a curriculum that is life. Just because you pass one thing, you know, like, I think the dark night of the soul, people think it's just like a one phase thing. No, it's not. Not necessarily. It can be 10 phases. It can be, I don't know, but it's all dependent on you. But I think it's kind of like the analogy. Let's say you're in college and you passed your math exam. But if you didn't go to class to English, history, all the other shit, like, you don't pass. You know, like, we can make great strides, but there's other curriculum that we have to take. So don't assume, I mean, I'm not saying look for the bad, but like, if you have like if you get super high and overcome something tough and then you're down again, like, don't beat yourself up. It's just another lesson along this path. And the last is the end to suffering is contained in the Eightfold Path. I'm not going to go into the whole Eightfold Path. You can look it up. But I think the end of that suffering is when you can figure out why and what can I do with this suffering to serve others and to help lift others up. Whatever you're going through, you're not the only one by any stretch of the imagination. And you know that. And I've learned that. The more I've opened up and been honest about my struggles with people, I've been blown away. Like, how many people are like, oh my God, I had that too. I would have never known. And then remember too, most of our suffering is caused up here. It's caused by our thoughts. Thoughts are not real. 95% of our life is based on subconscious programming. Subconscious, below surface level. We think 70,000 thoughts a day. If 95% of them are based on past habits, fear-based things, and that's what I'm trying to go through. Joe Dispenza's been a huge help to me. And one of the things in one of his audiobooks that I learned was to learn to say the word change aloud. When you catch yourself thinking, you know, maybe you're like going back to old patterns, you have to first be aware. If you want to make a change, you got to be aware first. But when you catch yourself, even if you're in public, you don't scream it, just say change, change, change. You gotta override the program. And that's the only way to get really through this. So, you know, don't feel bad about, we create our life with our thoughts, and most of our thoughts are negative in their own auto program. So that's where we have to come in and make that change. And the last thing I would say about that, one of my favorite Bible verses, Philippians 4:8-9. Thoughts are everything. Think about this, every word of it. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think on these things. What you've learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. Think on these things. If it's honorable, pure, lovely, commendable, excellent, praiseworthy, quit thinking about bad things. We have to be that change, and we have to make that change. Suffering is part of life. Suffering is such a part of awakening. It's the toughest part. But if you're suffering right now, you're doing it for a reason. If you're suffering, hang in there. Keep going. It's for a reason. It's part of your curriculum. Thanks, everybody. Hang in there. If you're suffering, allow the suffering too. Don't resist it. It's part of it. Thanks for tuning in. Please hit like and subscribe. Got some new podcasts coming up. I'm excited about what I'm building. And as always, have a happy now, because you can't be happy yesterday and you can't be happy tomorrow. Thanks.